more than £1,700 a year for their gas and electricity. I mean, you just have to let that... You know how you get used to sort of big figures and what is wrong? And then after a period of time, it just becomes, sadly, it sort of becomes the norm. This comes as winter approaches, extra cost of living payments for those on low incomes and winter fuel payments withdrawn for around about 10 million pensioners. Let's speak to Jess Ralston, analyst with the Energy and Climate Intelligence Unit. Jess, good afternoon to you. It's strange. You sort of develop a curious Stockholm syndrome with your energy supplier, don't you? It's as you do whatever you need to do. I have no choice in this matter. It's going to go up. It might come down for half an hour, then it's going to go back up again. It's been a bit of a roller coaster. And just when we thought things were getting back on track, up it goes again.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, millions of households across the UK are still struggling with really high bills. And from today, they're going to be around 55% higher than they were pre-crisis. So you couple that with the wider cost of living crisis that's going on, and there's millions struggling out there. And like you say, although some industry estimates put energy bills falling slightly in the new year, it's looking very volatile still. Yeah. I'm not really sure what's going to happen in the short or medium term because gas prices are still fluctuating a lot with all the different geopolitical tensions and wars that are going on all over the world. I mean, is that really it? Is it, you know, there was Ukraine, then there was the problem with Russian oil. We don't get most of our oil by any means from Russia, but, you know, it was a component in the story, I guess. But we get oil from all over the place, don't we? I think there's a couple of islands in the Caribbean that supply us oil, curiously. Yeah, well, gas has been the major driver of the gas crisis, the energy crisis over the last couple of years. And the UK is very exposed to volatility in the international markets. And that's because we use gas for around 40% of our power generation and around 85% of our home heating. So we're really reliant on this stuff. And that means that when there are rises in prices, we're subject to those rises and we have very little ability or none at all, really. Is this the same, Jess, all over the world? I mean, there are people in France having an identical conversation right now. Well, France might not be the best example because they have other energy options. But, you know, generally speaking, are people elsewhere having the same debate? Well, like you say, in France, they've got a lot of nuclear on the system, so they have more electricity generated by nuclear, so they're not as reliant on gas, and so they haven't been subject to the same exposure. However, when you look at other countries like Italy, like the Netherlands, who also use a lot of gas, they have been subject to price rises and price shocks, and that's really the big driver of not only the energy crisis, but the wider cost of living crisis. Food prices have gone up because costs of fertiliser have gone up because fertiliser's made with natural gas. So there's all these different interconnections across the economy, and gas really is the root cause of it all. Yeah. Is there any intelligence on the street as to, I mean, like as you rightly say, we are dependent on other factors and circumstances, wars and goodness knows what else. But is there any sense that something might, you know, over the next year or so, that there might be some kind of light on the horizon on this one? Yeah, well, for the UK, it's all about reducing our dependency on that gas and reducing our exposure to the volatility that we'll always see in those markets. So that's things like insulating homes. That's an investment that will lower your gas demand, so we won't be as reliant on the stuff. There's things like rolling out more renewables, again, reducing that gas demand. And for the oil question as well, there's also moving to electric vehicles, which obviously use electricity instead of petrol or diesel. So there are things coming down the line, and people will know that the new government seem to be a lot more keen to get lots of these things done. I think Ed Miliband last week or the week before was talking about insulation quite a lot, and they've got the warm homes plan, but we haven't really seen any detail of that plan specifically yet. I think some people think that will happen nearer to the budget, or they're hoping it'll happen nearer to the budget anyway. But we know about the government's 2030 clean power mission and move to electric vehicles already. We will see. Jess, thank you. Jess Ralston, analyst with the Energy and Climate Intelligence Unit. I mean, what does that look like? What does that look like on your energy bill? If you look at your house, my front door leaks like a flipping sieve when it comes to dry. It's an old house, you know, and you do your bit, you stick some insulation around there, and we're talking, do we get a curtain across it? I think the neighbours have got one of those. You can do a bit of that. Well, I mean, it keeps you a bit warmer. Does it make is there a tangible difference? You know, if I've got the lagging people round to do, the loft is largely done, but do you see it on your bill? Does your bill go down like 30% if you tick a few boxes? Because there are limitations on what you could do. I mean, insulating under your floor,
I could only do that in our living room if we literally ripped up the entire floor, which would cost an awful lot of money to relay the floor afterwards. Whether that's screening it, tiling it, carpeting it, whatever you want to call it, I think there's a lot of money involved in that. David in Epping says, I was once a lifelong Conservative supporter. In their present guise, I will never, ever vote for them again. What they need to do for me to vote for them is, 1, stop acting like New Labour version 2. Number 2, appoint a leader with true Conservative values. Number 3, kick out all the Liberal Socialists in their ranks, and there's a lot of them. Number 4, ditch net zero, ECHR, erect a border, stop aligning with UK to globalist beliefs, properly exit the EU and grow some kahunas to tackle issues like crime head on. Basically what Reform are promising to do, says David. And you raised, that's a great text, by the way, David raised a really good point on this when he talked about Liberal Socialists in their ranks. There's a lot of people would point to kind of David Cameron and George Osborne. These are guys that thought they got it and didn't get it. And the theory was always that there are more people in the Tory party like that, centrists, if you like, but I think it goes much more to the left than just a centrist. So things like immigration, a David Cameron character would never, they didn't really care about immigration. He talked about, tens of thousands. It was never achievable. It sounded as empty as stop the boats, if you like. Never really achievable, but one of the reasons, much like all the people that followed, and so much of the people in the party that Dave in Epping here rightly points out, their heart's not in it. They don't actually care. Cameron would be perfectly relaxed with, he wouldn't grumble about the Channel migrant crossings. He wouldn't care about that. He said, well, it's part of the contemporary world we live in. People come, people go. They won't always be here. It's a smaller amount in the grander scale. Not a smaller amount by anybody's measure. Let's be honest here. That's how those guys work. They'll never be affected by it as well. I think that's quite a crucial key. Their lives will be insulated to all of the various elements of some of the things that they sell from the rafters themselves. But I think what has happened now, whereas people previously would have gone, well, I don't agree with what they've done, but I'm still going to vote for them. That's the bit that's changed. I think political appetites have changed. The two-party system may well still be a thing for a few years yet, maybe a couple of elections. But it isn't just the fact that there's Reform UK out there. The Lib Dems can take care of the sort of left-wing stuff. I just think people are more discerning than they've ever been. I think people think about it more. So there, I was just having a pop at social media a second ago about the way it kind of peddles out more myths and disturbing headlines and untruths than probably anywhere else in our human journey. But the one thing it does do on a good day is it does allow people to debate stuff they'd never really debated before with other like-minded people, sometimes oppositions, and those that don't want to kill each other, which happens a lot on social media, can end up having really good debates. So that's where I think the Conservatives, Labour and others have not really considered. It's not a given that if people don't vote Labour, they will vote Conservative. It's not a given if people don't vote for the Conservatives, they will vote Labour. They'll go to the Lib Dems or somewhere like that. So I think the buffet has extended its choice, literally. But I think we as citizens, as people, as Brits, have also been more discerning about ours as well. What we have once accepted, no longer. And we have many more platforms in order to research and debate and discuss and conclude. So there's the good side of it all. Let's go to Jason in Wiltshire on energy bills. Jason, what are you making of it all? They're going up again as from today.
Yeah, good afternoon, Ian. Thanks for taking the call.
Pleasure.
Well, my view is I'm seeing a bit of a deja vu here. We had all this last year.
We did.
And then what we get about next April, May, record profits again. They're having our pants down.
Yeah.
We've got our own supplies here. We could frack. We've got gas. The communist regime won't use it. For some reason, we have to sort of keep importing all this expensive stuff. But I guarantee it will be next year that they've made record profits.
We will
again. It's not
absolutely
like that
hear.
one, like-
You're absolutely spot on. We will hear about record profits. But of course, you don't need to worry for too long, Jason. All you've got to do is put a windmill on your roof and life's a good one.
Well, I actually thought today it's a nice cloudy afternoon. I was going to go and get some solar panels installed.
Yeah, that'll tick over nicely, won't it, in this this autumnal and winter weather that's on our way. But that's the Labour answer. They're going to, just put these panels all over the show and more windmills, and that's going to heat all of our homes and make our energy woes go away. I mean, how long is that going to take?
Like I say, on a nice cloudy, windless day, it's going to do well, isn't it?
It'll do beautiful, won't it? Perfect. Jason, thank you for that. Jason in Wiltshire. Cliff in Berkshire says, I resigned my membership of the Conservative Party when David Cameron took over as leader. So that goes back, 14 years now, since, well, in fact, longer for when he was leader. 20 years, more like. Since then, the party has had a succession of uni-party clones. I fear the next leader will be more of the same.